is mute. Good afternoon, everyone. I trust that everyone has a good weekend and has been staying safe above all. So let's wait and see for people logging in and coming onto this broadcast, live broadcast, the first broadcast that I am going to start running starting from September. There will be a few series. One of the series is what I call Win Your Talent War series, where it will be more of sharing HR best practices and processes, best practices on how you can win your talent war. Okay, and looking at it, winning the talent war has always been talked about by business leaders and HR leaders, not just in Malaysia, obviously, but globally. And the last 2 years has probably added multiple angles as well in terms of difficulty of maybe winning the talent war, some other considerations coming in as well, I believe. Okay, so it will be a 30-45 minute session just to run you down in terms of the mechanics in my mind as I planned this. It will be a series of things that I've actually picked up and learned along the way in my 18 odd years of HR practitioner experiences, and I would like to share that. And the first is, very interestingly, what I call the 90 seconds interview. And it's like signed, sealed, and delivered in 90 seconds, 1.5 minutes. How shocking is that, at least for me, when I actually first saw this? Okay. Okay. Time now is 2 minutes past noon in Malaysia. And if you could probably do one thing for me, I'm going to go into a quick poll first. Maybe I'll put myself in the background as we're waiting for people. Do let us know where you're joining us from. You can scan the QR code and let me know. Or if you choose to actually share within the chat box as well, that is also fine. I can pick up the chats within the chat box. Let me know where you're calling in from, joining us from, wherever you are, whether you're in Malaysia, whether you are in other parts of the world. Let me know. Okay. And actually, there's a second poll. I would like to find out, personally for you, what has been the shortest interview that you, either as a hiring manager or interviewer, have conducted, or you as a candidate has actually attended before. Like I said, you can actually scan the QR code on the Slido app and put it in there, or you can actually use the chat. Okay? Good, I see some chats coming in. Typically it's 45 to 60 minutes. Some say even more. Okay. Okay, interesting. Okay, so just to do a recap, let us know where you are joining us from, which country or which location are you, and how long an interview have you actually attended before or conducted before as a manager. Okay? Okay, so ultimately, this is where the shocking statement comes from. sharing with you. Interestingly, when I read this, it is like a global survey. It came from this one global survey of 2,000 managers. And out of these 2,000 managers, 33% of them actually said that they can make hiring decisions within 90 seconds. Yes, you read that correctly. Within 90 seconds, which means from the moment the person comes in, you probably shake hand and the person is seated down comfortably. You probably have time to say, hi, my name is this, your name is so and so, and that's it. That hiring manager, that interviewer can already make a hiring decision within that 90 seconds. That's very shocking for me, really, because ultimately, in all my years of 18 plus years of HR practitioner experiences in talent acquisition, recruitment that is, I've been trained to actually be what I call a trained assessors, to find out things, to find out circumstances, to find out situations, to find out skills and experience from candidates as much as possible, such that then I can make a hiring decision. So when I first came about this particular survey, it came as a shocking revelation. But don't let it just be about me. Tell me what you think in the comment box, in the chat box, as to what you feel about this. 90 seconds, you can conclude an interview. Someone walked in, sit down, make themselves comfortable. You are able to make that decision. If you could, put it in the chat box and share your comments. Okay? So feel free to share any comments as and when they come in. Okay? But to me, the first question that comes in my mind is, even if they were able to actually start the interview proper, what kind of questions this so-called interviewer is going to be asking in order for him or her to decide within that 90 seconds period. Let's just assume that 90 seconds was really indeed an interview, not just the pleasantries, not just the welcoming and whatever not. Let's just assume that 90 seconds was really indeed asking questions, getting answers, and he or she was able to make a hiring decision. What do you think he or she has asked? One question, one answer, he was able to make it and conclude the interview. So that was the key question that comes to mind, because like I said, in all my years of experience, I've been trained to actually peel and peel and peel the onions, layer by layer, and try to find out more and more and more until such time I have enough evidence, per se, for whatever that I'm trying to establish. So that came as a surprise. Okay, so I'll leave you with this thought with regards to a 90 seconds interview. And quick recap. My name is Mike Leong, and I call myself a global growth hunter with 18 plus years of HR practitioner experiences in talent acquisition and talent development. And I am very passionate in helping my clients create and achieve staff happiness in their organizations. And having learned best practices from multinational companies, global companies such as Shell, Citibank, and IBM, I draw upon all these best practices and help my clients co-create staff happiness in their specific and unique environments. And these are the unique environments where ultimately I find the so-called science seal and deliver in 90 seconds really will not support any client organization's intention to really win their talent wars. Hence the reason why I'm actually sharing all this. So coming back to that 90 seconds interview now, just to share some of the reasons that these hiring managers reject the candidates. They said it was attire being too trendy, too flamboyant. Well, but then again, I trust that when candidates, when the so-called talents come for interview, they will probably dress in their best formal attire, but yet people actually call them out and say, hey, this is too trendy for me. But this is say this one person, assuming that I'm the interviewer, this is from my lenses, from my personal lenses. And what do you call that? I'll come back to that later. I'll share with you another one, failure to make eye contact. Just because this one person sits across you and not able to make that eye contact, and the hiring manager again call out that says, no, this person is not right for me. And so said this one person. The last one that I wanted to share, bad postures. Again, I wonder how bad is bad, because most of the time, talents or candidates sitting across you as the interviewer in a formal session will probably be a bit nervous. If they're nervous, they'll probably be a little bit rigid. And I doubt they would, how bad a bad posture is, right? But so said this interviewer that, hey, I don't like that bad postures. But all this, just think about it. Just think about it. All this is one person's one-sided view from his or her lenses about what is acceptable and not acceptable. And that is what I call, it's very biased. Because just because it doesn't fit this one person's lens of what is acceptable or not, then I call it out and say, no, this is not a good hire. Interesting. Not only it is biased, think about it. If I'm the hiring manager and I have a team lead and I have someone who one day I say, well, whoever, James, I can't be sitting in the interview today because I'm off sick. Can you take my place? So what am I going to tell this person if that's my mode of operations of interview? Well, if the person does not wear this or that, if the person has, let's say, going back to the few rejection points, if the person that has bad posture, call him out, or no, it is not repeatable, isn't it? Because the other person may see things very differently, and ultimately it is really saying that you want to hire the best talents in the market, but yet you're not able to repeat that process of hiring, that so-called best practice of hiring. Kind of difficult if you're negating your own self in terms of what's your intention. That's what I'd say. And obviously it's not objective. Let me explain. Let's say this one day, this hiring manager has a CV of a salesperson, assuming we are hiring sales professional, IT sales professional. And this candidate has, say, indicated in the CV, I've won a major IT deal of 1 million USD this one time. And this hiring manager, this interviewer will probably center the discussion about circumstances surrounding that project. Oh, I know the people behind this project. It was tough. It was really, there were this many number of competitors and people competing in that and whatever not. Oh, you were part of that won? Oh, okay, good. I'm impressed. So the kind of discussion would probably center around this one project because it is of interest to the interviewer, right? But another day, another candidate walks in, probably equally as capable as a sales professional, but the questioning, the line of questioning can be very different depending on what's on the paper and what the interviewer felt like discussing that day. Perhaps if he or she had a bad day or bad evening the night before, I'll probably say something very different. My line of questioning can be very influenced by whatever that has happened to me. And hence, in short, two equal equally as capable candidate for the IT sales professional, but my line of questioning is very different depending on my mood, depending on what I see on paper, depending on the sun, the moon, and the planets align, the weather, and whatever not. So it's not objective. End day, if I were to say, if the boss were to come down and say, hey, you have interviewed so many number of candidates, so many number of talents, who's the best? Why would you say he's the best or not the best or whatever? He or she, the interviewer, would not be able to have an objective rundown. You'll probably just call out and say, this is the best candidate. When deep down inside, he's not able to know. Okay? Any thoughts, any comments, please feel free to leave it on the comment box. I'll move on very quickly. Remember, what's the intention here? The intention here is to be able to win your talent war, right? That's the overarching statement of organizations, I believe. They want to win the talent war, which means hiring the best talents. But actually, that's not the whole truth. Hiring the best talent does not actually means that you win the talent war, but that's probably another story for another day. Let me come back. If you're trying to win your talent war, this kind of hiring best practice, so-called hiring best practice, is not going to do you any justice in terms of your employer branding. Because at the end of the day, word will get out and said, hey, this company is really very discriminating. I know someone who went for the same interview and he or she had an hour's interview. I had 90 seconds, or worse, I had, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or whatever. What gives? If this individual felt that he has what it takes for that role, but yet gotten a 2 minutes interview, gotten a 5 minutes interview, a 10 minutes interview even, is going to be deemed as discriminatory. And I can tell you one thing. There are companies in the West predominantly, companies get sued for this, for discriminatory hiring process. And they, of course, obviously, is unfair hiring. Yeah, because if you have two equally capable candidates and talent sitting in front of you, and they knew that they are good enough, but yet the client comes back and say, well, thank you so much for attending our interview, but unfortunately, we have hired someone better than you for that role, and we would like to keep you in our database and whatever not, and thank you so much for your time. It's like, what? That's so unfair. Because I know I'm from probably a competing company, competing organization, selling exactly the same products and services and whatever not. I'm so good. Well, so they say, right? But in their mind, this is perceived as discriminatory. This is perceived as unfair hiring. And this ultimately is really negative employer branding for you, for your company. And all this, and I'm sure this particular word, talent attraction, every company is busy. Is one of the angle that every company is busy actually with is talent attraction. How to reach out to the market for the best talents, how to actually do their PR and corporate comm in terms of how good my company is and their companies are and whatever not. But think about it. If you actually have all these attraction strategies, but yet when these talents walk through your door and they got this kind of so-called best practices, sadly, these are going to actually lead to negative talent attraction. No matter how good your attraction strategies are, but ultimately they are going to actually leave your organization, leave that door feeling that something is wrong. And word do get around. Okay? Gone are the days when people just probably complain in silo and no one knows about it. But nowadays social media is, you don't want to actually get into that, right? Okay, so ultimately, that's on the negatives, employer branding, and negative side if individuals were not hired, if talents were not hired. But think about it. assuming that some individuals will hire. Okay? Some individuals will hire 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or whatever. But let me, again, the intention here is to hire the best talents and win the talent war. But for those that were hired ultimately, think about it. Does the hiring manager, does the interviewer knows anything about the person that he or she has just hired? Really? Other than, oh, okay, it looks good, very good CV. Sometimes we need to find out, right? If someone says that I've actually gotten this deal and won this deal and total contract value is 1 million USDs or 10 million USDs and whatever not, you also want to know how the person worked in order to collaborate internally with different teams in order to win that. Obviously, it's not going to be a one person's achievement. This one person, the interviewee, was not the only person who actually got in the deal, right? He or she needs to work through a lot of parties in order to get that win. But does the interviewer know that? Does he even know, does the interviewer even know that it was really this one person, this one candidate that actually won that? We don't know. For all you know, it wasn't even the person, that candidate that you hire, but he was maybe part of that process, but not him or her. But does the interviewer knows? No, it was not actually clarified. Questions were not asked by the interviewer such that, the interviewer will find out, oh, I think there's something amiss. It's probably not this one person because he or she, the candidate, the talent, was not even able to answer certain basic fundamental selling questions, products questions, product knowledge, technical knowledge, or whatever. And because those questions were not asked. So at the end of the day, it's based on whatever that's written. At the end of the day, the candidate was hired, talent was hired based on that. And obviously, as a hiring manager, then, oh, wow, this person knows this network good. This exactly the network that the network of clients that I'm trying to, approach and knock on the doors. And this one candidate says that that's the network, precisely the network that he wants, says the right thing, and boom, he's hired. But nothing much is known about him or her, the talent in front of her. Okay? And worse still, hiring best talents also means, like I said just now, let me just recap. Winning the talent war is not just about hiring the best talent. There's much more process that needs to happen after the person becomes your staff. But that's a story for another day. But my question at this juncture, I'll leave you with this note. Not only do you not know how good this one person really is that you just hired, you don't even know what he or she wants to do in the future, because aspirations are also important for your hire. That's how you plan. That's how you project. That's how you actually make projections of how that individual that you're going to hire is going to sustain in the organization. And that's how you can actually retain and sustain best talents in the organization. And that, hiring the best talent, sustaining the best talent, is how you win the talent war. But in this case, this 90 seconds interviewer knows nothing of the best talent, this one best talent that he or she just hired. And unfortunately, I can tell you, in such cases, it will be a very short-term hire because things are bound to go wrong. Murphy's in the room. Okay, but I'll leave you at that. Okay, I'll discuss this particular one in probably another session in terms of really winning talent wars. But let me actually move on. Okay, so now that we know all these negativities, we're trying to win the talent wars, but yet we're not doing supposedly the best practice that is to hire the best talent, what needs to be done? Remember I mentioned just now, I have all through my corporate days I've been trained to really interview methodically and peeling onions and all, layer by layer, spending time to find out more about candidates, about talents, sitting in front of us, coming through our door in order to hire the best. That process is called structured interview process. I'll call it SIP for short. So anytime moving forward, if you were to find me saying SIP, that's structured interview process. Okay, so this would be a good place to start. Having a structured and methodical process that allows you to actually ask predetermined questions. I'm jumping ahead of myself. It is essentially a set of predetermined questions from the organization for each of the role that they will hire, for each level of seniority that they will be hiring, and such that even in my absence, if I'm the head of department for that division, sales, even in my absence, any interviews that takes place, any deputized interviewer that comes in, picked up the interview pack, pick up the predetermined questions, and able to ask the same consistent and objective questions again and again and again to different candidates. Whether it is, I don't know, whether yesterday was the biggest EPL football game that just happened and everyone will be more excited, or Olympic Games or whatever, even if there are a lot of other interesting things that happen, probably those are small talk. But the main line of question, the main questioning angle will still be predetermined and preset for each of the role. So end day, this will end ultimately, whatever all this interview notes and all will become insights for future development plans for your new hires. Remember just now, I said even if this interviewer, 90 seconds interviewer, managed to hire, I don't know anything about the future aspirations of my new hire. So the structured interview process gives exactly the opposite. It gives insights for development plans for your new hires. And hence, because of that, you can actually use that as a pipeline for succession planning. Good, isn't it? And because of that, talents sustain in your organization. And because of that, you tend to win talent wars. See the equation? Hiring the best talent does not necessarily guarantee you winning the talent war. What you do after that sustains each individual candidates and talents and staff in your organization ultimately wins you the talent war. So these two must come together in cohesion. They must come together. If you spend time to interview the best candidate, you must spend equal or more time to actually retain and sustain them. But like I said, that's a different story for another day. Okay, so far? Any comments, any chats, please put it into the chat box. I'll come to that later. But I think it's a bit of a quiet day. Anyway, I'll share this one model that I've actually developed, this best practice model that I've actually come to develop in terms of all the best practices that I've gathered as well through the years. And this is what I believe is the model for staff happiness in any organizations, any different size, any countries across the world. Okay? As you can probably imagine, staff happiness within your organization encompass two elements, external and internal. which means your external talents whom you're trying to attract. But once they come in as your staff, those are your internal. So external elements of talents, best talents, internal element of your existing staff. If you do things right, both of them combined, they will actually allow you to achieve your staff happiness. And staff happiness, by the way, is not a finite goal. Okay, once you achieve happier staff, you should and you would achieve happiest customers, because they are delivering over and above what it takes for your clients, and hence because they are happy, then you get much more business. And like I said, it's a cyclical, repetitive cycle. Okay, because the moment you say, no, I'm not going to do my stuff, I'm not going to be doing this anymore in terms of making my staff happier or happy, then that's the moment that you probably not have happier customers and you probably not have good business results. So it has to be maintained. This cycle has to be maintained in order for good bottom line, ultimately. And of course, then if you have good bottom line, you give them big bonuses and big commissions. What do you have? You have happier staff, and they will be much more motivated, isn't it? So it's a cycle. And ultimately, this is where you build that cultural affinity in your organization. Positive cultural affinity in your organization. And this is where I call cultural affinity for staff happiness, for your staff happiness. And that's the acronym CASH. Spell out to be cash. CASH. Cultural affinity for staff happiness. But this reciprocity in terms of the arrow there, CA and SH, again, it's reciprocal, it's a cycle, but it's just like chicken and egg. Which one comes first? Do you have chicken first, and then with the chicken you have the egg? Or actually, hey, hang on, without the egg, then where do you have the chicken, the chicks, and then who becomes the chicken? And you know, it's totally deep, right? We all know it, but suffice for us to understand the fact that both of them needs to be in place in order for staff happiness, in order for the positive cultural affinity to be in place in your organization. And that's how you win your talent wars. And it's based on 3 elements: trust, humility, and empathy within the team, within the organizations. Because ultimately, without the trust, you would not actually be able to sustain. Okay? And I want to borrow a quote from Sir Richard Branson, which I totally agree. Clients really do not come first. It's your employees that come first, because if you took care of your employees, they will very naturally take care of your clients. And that's where the model comes in, right? Happier staff, happier customers, you have better business results. And it's a reciprocal cycle. It's a repetitive cycle. How true? Okay. So in fact, I've come to the end of the presentation for this, or sharing for this afternoon, the 90 seconds interview, where I try to debunk the fact that if you want to win the talent wars, having a 90 seconds interview does not work. Well, if that's the case, I would say even a 10 minutes would probably not work, because it's not going to allow you time to find out much more about each individual that you're trying to hire, each individual talents that you're trying to bring into your organization. Okay, probably the best that I've actually, most of the time, 1 hour is the minimum, 1 hour. But of course, you'll probably say, hey, I've actually attended an interview for 30 minutes and I was hired. Typically, I've seen most of the time 1 to 1.5 hours is the first interview, where the interviewer are trying to establish technical fit. Does this person knows this or not? You know, in terms of the technical match for that role. The second interview, which is shorter, 30 minutes, is for a higher manager endorsement. Hey boss, I've actually interviewed this one candidate earlier on yesterday. I'm trying to actually invite her in for a second interview, 30 minutes or so, and that's sufficient, and second interview is really where the higher level, upline manager is trying to say, oh, okay, really, I think you're right. He or she has what it takes. He answers question very nicely and whatever not. And tends to be, second interview are mostly non-technical questions. Hence, that's why it's usually quicker. Usually, upline managers would talk about things like communications. I give you an open-ended question and you're able to articulate and engage me as if you are trying to engage as client stakeholders. If you're able to, good enough for that level. Yeah, and ultimately, if it is a people management role, talking about conflict management, resource planning, and whatever not, that should be it. Okay, but anyway, that's all I have. This is just to share my contact details. Do get in touch with me if you have any questions, anything at all that you would like to find out about this particular segment, 90 seconds interview, some of the comments or some of the things I've actually shared and mentioned. If there are any questions at all, do feel free to reach out. Or if you felt that, hey, you talk about winning a talent war, it's not just about hiring the best talents and whatever. No, hey, I don't agree. Tell me more. Reach out to me and let me know. And then we can actually bounce off ideas and all. Okay? So that's it. At this point in time, short session. I like I said, it's 30-45 minutes. I'm on the dot at about 40 minutes. So this will be, like I said earlier when I started, it will be regular sessions where I try to share HR business best practice and mostly HR related, and how to win best, how to win your talent wars, and probably things that you should not be doing in order to win your talent war, things like that. Okay, depending on how we look at things. Okay, so until the next session, take care, everyone. Stay safe, and bye-bye.